right, hey guys, this is our first video that's related to the nutrition challenge that we're doing. I've got Amanda Mercer here with me. Amanda's here for a lot of different reasons, but primarily for a lot of the expertise that she brings. So along those lines, why don't you kind of introduce yourself and go through your list of certifications and stuff.
All right.
I'll take a nap.
Okay. You take a nap. So I'm Amanda, as Tim said, and I am a personal trainer and group exercise instructor. So I have certifications through NSCA, ACE, spinning, Liebert Fitness, Start Fitness Boot Camp, Hyperwear, Sandbell, and I'm also a holistic health coach from the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, which is my most recent endeavor. So that's the short version of everything. And I own my own studio in town for personal training, spinning, and working out.
I read a book once and I have a couple dumbbells. If you want to see my resume in printed form, I'll have that at the end of the video. So, we did a short video kind of explaining a little bit of the science behind what we're doing and why we're doing
Correction. First we did the extended version of this, and the camera shut off because it decided we went too long.
Yeah, we actually got technology stunted. So anyway, we're going to dig in a little bit deeper than the short video that we released on the group chat and just really kind of go into why we're doing what we're doing. And so since I'm not very organized, I sat down and tried to let me prepare what I'm going to say, and I got nowhere. So Amanda's going to kind of lead this and just interrogate me.
Perfect. I can do that. So one of the things and one of my personal focuses, especially in what I do, is an emphasis on lifestyle over diet. So when we refer to diet, and Tim and I were talking about this, that diet really just refers to anything you're eating. So it's not a book that you picked up or an eating plan. It's literally what you eat in a day is considered your diet. Whether you think it's good, bad, or nothing, that's your diet. And so, Tim, really, I think one of the big things for us to establish first is what we're trying to establish at the end of this program. Are we giving them a meal plan? Is this a 30-day challenge and you're done? What is our goal with this plan?
I like that. Begin with the end in mind.
Yeah.
And I like saying diet, too, because I just got braces, so saying nutritional lifestyle over and over is going to be rough, so I will stick with diet from now on. So, yeah, this isn't 30 days, this isn't 60 days, this isn't 90 days. The reason I want this to become a new nutritional lifestyle for everybody is because it has to be something that's sustainable, right? We're real big about sustainability. You have to be able to continue this on to lengthen your life, actually, and improve the quality of your life from a nutritional standpoint. So we're not going to have journals necessarily. We're not going to be counting calories. I'm not going to give you a meal plan. We're going to start this off super simple like we did a week ago, where I just told you guys, man, pick one really bad carbohydrate, right? So processed carb. Some people it was gummy bears. Jeff? Still. For some people, it was sweet tea. It was bread. It was pasta, beer. I mean, the list of really bad processed carbs is a pretty long one. And so everybody committed to just cutting that one thing out. We're going to do that for about 2 weeks, and then we're going to pick one more thing, and we're going to slowly start to adapt what we eat throughout the course of the day and throughout the course of the week to be more of something that it's almost a reflex. We just get up, we know what to avoid, what not to eat, but we're going to do this slowly and at a healthy pace.
Perfect. And I really think that is the key to changing your life, and is to start slow and to start to become aware. And this is one thing, again, that I'm super big on and why I love supporting everything that's going on with this group, is that we want you to realize when you feel good and when you don't feel good, and what foods make you feel better and what foods don't, because our bodies are actually pretty smart. They run and they do a lot of things that we don't think about that they do every day to keep us alive. And so your body's going to be your best tool of feedback. And if you are putting all this garbage in it, you sometimes lose what it's telling you. And so start to notice if you have a day where you end up having to eat something that you weren't really planning on, notice how you feel after that, because that's going to give you a lot of feedback. And And so going from there and our bodies being smart, this is a great transition, by the way.
Well done.
Okay, so going from our bodies being smart, your body likes to return to a state of homeostasis. So that's a really nice science term, which basically means that it doesn't like to go up and down like a roller coaster. It tries to just go on a straight line, maybe with a few variations throughout the day. So something happens and a response happens in your body, and your body's trying to bring it back down to that neutral ground. And so, Tim, why don't you tell us about what we're talking about with insulin resistance and carbohydrates as it relates to homeostasis?
Sure. So we kind of suckered everybody into this whole thing with, I just threw out a general post out there, hey, who wants to try something that's not quite a diet, it's just a different approach to nutrition and maybe lose a little bit of weight. And so I think it just came across as a diet. But once we got into this, I started talking a lot about insulin resistance. And so this is where we kind of dig into the science. And so insulin resistance is a very harmful state for your body to be in. And so you eat something, and we're going to talk about how we metabolize food, right? And so you eat something, and your body breaks down what you eat. So your fats go to fatty acids, your protein goes to amino acids, and your carbohydrates go to glucose. And so that's what we're going to be talking a lot about, glucose. So when you eat something and your liver produces glucose, you have all that blood sugar floating around in your bloodstream, and your cells need to use it. Your muscle cells, your brain, everything in your body needs glucose to live. The problem is we eat so much of it, and we create, we create so many carbohydrates that we create so much glucose. Well, our pancreas creates a hormone called insulin, right? And so insulin is basically, if you want to think about it in real simple terms, insulin is a nutrient transporter. So it shows up to your cells with the glucose, and basically it's almost like your cells have a bouncer at the door, right? It's your insulin receptor. And the insulin has to say, hey, this glucose is cool, it's with me, they're VIP, let them in. Yeah, and so your cells are like, hey, yeah, cool, come on in. And so
that was the glucose party in your muscles.
It's the glucose club.
Yeah, I got into the muscles. Woo, okay.
So what happens, though, is over time, we eat such a carb-rich diet that we're flooding our body with glucose, and so our pancreas is now having to really work overtime to keep up, and it's dumping a bunch of insulin into our body, trying to get all of this glucose into the glucose club, your cells. Problem is, when insulin showed up as a VIP with 3 people, that was cool. He could schmooze the receptors. Now he's showing up with 100 people, right? You just get this big party outside, and it's like your body's like, whoa, you're not all VIPs, you're not all getting in. So now you have all of this insulin, all this glucose floating around in your blood. It's got to go somewhere, right? The way that gets stored is so destructive, guys. It's what leads to pre-diabetic conditions, diabetes too. It's going to get stored in bad ways in your eyeballs, in your hands, in your feet. All of the bad things you see happen to somebody who's diabetic, that's what's happening. It's all that extra glucose in their body. But also, primarily, as far as we're concerned, what you guys really want to know about, it gets stored as fat. The more glucose you have, so the more carbs you eat, more glucose you have, more insulin is made, more fat is stored. So, how's that for a long answer to a short question?
Yeah, but I think it's super important to understand, and even if you got nothing from that, essentially, because it's all super sciencey, essentially eating something with a lot of carbohydrates is going to raise your blood sugar up. And so your body has to work harder to get that level back down to the baseline than if you can balance that out. So coming back down from somewhere up here, or up here if you're on camera, and I don't know if you can see my hand, whereas if you're already really close to that line, it's going to be much easier for your body to do that. And the harder, our bodies are working all the time, constantly. And so the harder it has to work after you eat or after you do certain things to get back to normal, the more detrimental detrimental it's going to be, especially on even things like focus and mental clarity. So being able to think clearly, some of that's inflammation, but it's also your body's having to work elsewhere and devote energy to elsewhere. That's why you get sugar crashes. That 2 p.m. crash is typically from a carbohydrate-rich diet, I believe, at least in my opinion. And so, hangry.
Yeah, girl.
Hangriness after I started eating, adjusting to insulin, an insulin sensitivity diet. My hanger disappeared. Like, my husband can tell you that I'm much more of a joy to be around than when I used to be hangry, because I kept my body from the spikes and started to now normalize.
I'm still a jerk, but it has nothing to do with it. I thought maybe eating right would make me more palatable, but no, as it turns out. And
you're just not a hangry jerk.
I'm just not. Yeah, I'm a healthy jerk. So,
Bree's sitting behind there like, yes.
Listen, Bree, you're an intern for a reason. Until we make you full time, you stay out. So yeah, that's a good explanation. And there's a lot of other things. We're specifically related to losing weight. There's a couple types of fat in our body. One of it is we call it VAT, right? It's the visceral adipose tissue. That's the stuff surrounding your organs, under your muscles. It is the type of fat that you cannot target, right? And so Amanda can know everything she possibly can about training, but we have our subcutaneous fat, which is all the stuff under the skin. It's the stuff we see. It's our flubber and stuff like that, my love handles. But you also have this VAT, this visceral adipose tissue, and it's really hard to get rid of. Studies have shown that actually visceral adipose tissue, that tough fat, they call it angry fat, right?
Yeah.
So that angry fat, it actually contributes to insulin resistance, right? Mm-hmm. And it makes a bunch of bad hormones and make it really tough for you to be healthy, lose weight. And so one of the only ways that you can get rid of this awful fat that's in your belly and around your organs is to starve it for fuel. I threw up an analogy the other day where if you have a fire raging, they don't just sit there and spray the fire and try to attack it. They get out in front of it and they get rid of all the fuel, right? So the fire dies out. Mm-hmm. And that's what we're doing essentially, is we're going in and we're lowering the amount of fuel that our body has to kind of create that fire that is fat within our system. And so that's another advantage of doing a diet that makes you more sensitive to the insulin in your body.
Yeah, and that's the American College of Sports Medicine, ACSM, guidelines puts out risk factors for people that we call them comorbidities, like what you're at risk for: diabetes, heart disease, and kind of looking at lifespan. And essentially, belly fat, which is where all your organs are, is one of those risk factors, and it means that you're much more susceptible to heart disease and to having those diabetic problems later down the road than somebody maybe who gains fat in their hips and thighs. You're less likely to have heart disease there. So the American College of Sports Medicine knows what they're talking about, but they do put out some really good guidelines.
Interesting study along those lines too. Mm-hmm. Right now, it's estimated that 50% of Americans are either pre-diabetic or have diabetes too. So 50% of the people, we have 22 some odd people in our group, 11 of you are probably diabetic.
Yeah, and you don't always have to be considered overweight or unhealthy. There was a point in time where I was probably almost at risk for being pre-diabetic just because of the amount of carbs I was intaking during my day as a personal trainer, because I was just eating those carbs to keep fueled, and I was always...
Our intern is writing notes to us.
Yay! I was always just spiking my blood sugar levels, and so it was...
She's trying to.
She's trying to.
Sorry.
Anyway, so what I'm trying to get across to you here is we are not just trying to have you lose weight and be a certain size. We're actually trying to make you healthier. And in the process, you are going to lose weight. Like, we have full confidence in that. But we want you to be healthier individuals because, well, I don't know. know most of you, but Tim knows you and he likes you and he wants you to stay around for a little longer.
Like most of you.
Most of you.
I'm not going to tell you who's who.
That's jerky, Tim. I will tell
I'm
you.
hangry, right? Can I blame it on hangry? Is that what it is? So I do want. So here's going to be a really good. We'll wrap up kind of with a little bit of a summary. I want to kind of walk you through what we're doing right now, what's next, and kind of beginning with the end in mind, where we're going to eventually wind up, and why this is going to be a huge impact on your life. Because a lot of people right out of the gate were just like, all right, so I cut out bread. I don't feel like I'm doing anything, Tim. And that's the most common message I keep getting from people is I don't feel like I'm doing enough. Relax. Okay, you're doing plenty. When you drop the most guilty type of carbs out of your diet, the worst ones, those processed, starchy carbohydrates out of your diet. When you take the worst one and your blood sugars start to lower, remember, your pancreas is creating less insulin, so it's not being as pushy, so your cells are starting to normalize a little bit. In just 2 weeks, you're going to have less insulin in your body, meaning that the blood sugar, the carbs that you do eat, are going to get processed into your muscle cells and your healthy cells at a more healthy rate. So you're moving in the right direction. Here, over the next 6 weeks, we're going to start focusing more on, okay, well, what are good carbs? Because not all carbs are bad. Don't hear that. Do not hear that.
We're not saying that.
Processed carbs, guys. So anything that comes out of a box, anything based on wheat or a bag, it comes from a factory. Those are going to be the worst ones. But
if
above
you couldn't
ground,
grow it or kill it in your backyard, you shouldn't.
Do I have to kill it in my backyard or
or in your kitchen?
Can I go kill it downtown?
Yeah, but if you wouldn't have the potential to do that, you probably shouldn't be eating it.
And for us, our focus is right now too, where we're eventually going to wind up is we're looking at above ground. So we're talking about growing stuff. We're going to look mainly at above ground, fibrous, leafy green vegetables, your broccoli, your cauliflower. Not really. I guess it does have leafy greens around it. Things along those lines. We're not going to eat a real heavy starchy diet and potatoes and things like that. So just because we're trying to keep our overall carb levels down doesn't mean they're bad. Doesn't mean they're bad.
Yeah, and they might have their place.
Yeah, they will. They absolutely will have their place. And so we'll talk about the balance with those things. So we're going to shift towards a dietary lifestyle that focuses more on the good carbohydrates. I know you hate that term, but the healthier carbohydrates. Gets rid of the processed stuff. But we're also going to look at how sleep impacts insulin resistance. There's a really cool study done real quickly. They put a test group into a 4-night study where they only got 4.5 hours of sleep, all of them, right? Mm-hmm. Their insulin resistance went up by 27%. That's incredible. So the impact that sleep has on your body and how you process your nutrients is huge. We're going to look at supplements, some great supplements that are out there to help your body naturally metabolize food at a healthier rate. We're going to look at stress. You're waiting.
I was waiting for that one. I was going to cue you on that one.
Well, it's because you have to work with me a little bit, and I think you're so stressed out. And so, actually, our intern is the most stressed out person.
She has to live with you. Yeah, right? I get to go home.
She's been an intern for like 6 years. She's like, when am I getting?
He sleeps with his intern.
Yeah, who sleeps with an intern? That's so unprofessional. So we're going to look at what sleep does. We are going to look at probiotics and gut health. God, we can talk about this for a long time, but look it up. You don't have to write the time down. We're almost done. 20 minutes. So we're going to look at some probiotic health. This is some stuff you guys can start researching ahead of time. So if you want to go back over these last few topics I mentioned, we're going to talk about exercise. Right? What do you mean it's flashing? Is it still recording? I'll pause.